On the right, wash your hands, arms, feet, legs. Doors are sliding closed. Asante Sana means thank you in Swahili. We also like to say Twende here, which means let's go. Jumbo friends, my name is Carrie. I'll be your safari driver today. If you take a look above your head, you'll see an animal spotting guide. We will likely not see all of those animals today, and we do tend to get pretty lucky. A few important safety rules before we head in. We do need everyone to stay fully seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times. And please hold on to any loose articles as well. While we wait here for the all-clear from the warden to head into the reserve, I do recommend setting your phones or action or sports mode. That will ensure that you can get good photos of these animals, because we can't stop for all of them, and we definitely can't count on them to stop for us.
Very sad. You ready, set?
The first area we're entering into here is the Little Ituri Forest. It's home to some animals of great camouflage, so some might be a bit tricky to spot. However, if I see any, I will be sure to point them out for you. Over on the right-hand side, there's an okapi up on the hill there. The okapi looks kind of like a zebra with the black and white stripes they have on their legs, but they are not related to the zebra at all. They're actually the closest relative of the giraffe. One thing the okapi and the giraffe have in common is a prehensile tongue, meaning they can use their tongue like a finger or hand. This large black and white bird here on the left is a saddle-billed stork. They mate for life, and the mating pairs can be quite territorial. She's a female, which I can tell by the fact that she has yellow eyes. The males have darker brown eyes. Looks like there's another saddle-billed stork up on this big hill here. It'll be on our right-hand side just a moment. You might be able to just see his head up there. Keep your eyes open, friends. Like I said, some of these animals do have great camouflage. They can kind of sneak up on us sometimes. Those dark red and white striped antelopes are bongos. They're nicknamed the ghost of the forest. I like to think that's because they have such great camouflage against the red clay. Those lighter tan antelopes there are greater kudus. Those greater kudus are females, which I can tell by the fact that they don't have any horns. Only the male greater kudus have horns, which can be up to 6 feet long. White and light gray pelicans on the right-hand side are pink-backed pelicans. They get that name because of the pink coloration that appears on their skin during their mating season. They are colonial nesters, which means that they nest in very large groups. Those groups can number up to 500 pairs. I do see some movement in the water here on our left, but I don't see anyone above the surface at the moment. Some of the animals out here can hold their breath underwater for quite some time though, so definitely keep your eyes open. It could pop up for a breath at any moment, or we may just see the shadow or silhouette of an animal beneath the surface. grow up to 16 to 18 feet long. It's almost as long as a giraffe is tall. They have more of a pointed snout shape, whereas alligators have more of a curved or U-shaped snout. And identifiable animals in all of Africa. So hopefully we'll be able to get a good look at some of those animals out here today. The environment out here on the savanna is heavily impacted by the animals who live out here. Since this area is home to so many animals and many of them are so large, it can leave quite a big impact out here. We'll definitely notice some different signs of that as we move on through, even if we don't see the animals themselves at first. Off in the distance on the right hand side, looks like there are a few Maasai giraffes walking around. I can tell that these are Maasai giraffes because of the rough, jagged edges around their spots. Maasai giraffes can grow up to 18 to 20 feet tall, with the babies being born at about 6 feet tall. The gray antelopes over there on the right-hand side are wildebeests. Wildebeests are migratory animals. They can migrate in groups up to 1.5 million. That does give them the title of the second largest grouping of mammals, second only to humans. The red and white spotted cattle with the big horns over there on the right-hand side are Nkoli cattle. The Nkoli cattle are also known as the Watusi cattle after the tribe that first domesticated them. Both the males and females do have those big horns. Their horns are somewhat hollow with a honeycomb structure on the inside. That allows blood to flow through their horns and helps cool down the Nkoli cattle, working almost like a built-in air conditioning system for them. They're the symbol of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve we're on now. They have those horns that angle backwards to help keep predators off their backs. Another Nkoli cattle over on the left-hand side there. Same ones as before over on the right, as well as those wildebeests and giraffes again. We've got a whole tower of giraffes up ahead here on the left-hand side. These giraffes do spend the majority of their day eating and walking around looking for food, only sleeping for about 30 minutes each day. That's not one 30-minute stretch for these giraffes either. It's a bunch of short naps taken all throughout their day. They can take most of those naps standing up. They also have very long tongues, as you can see. Their tongues can get to 18 inches long, which really helps them reach way up into those trees and grab those leaves they like to eat. The giraffes also have ossicones on their heads. Those seem to look like fuzzy horns. That is something that they have in common with the okapi that we saw back in the forest. For the giraffes, both the males and the females have those ossicones, but for okapis, only the males do. Tan and white ones are springboks. Springboks are fully grown, only about 3 feet tall, but they can spring up to 6 feet in the air from a standstill. If they get a running start to that jump, they can go 13 feet. Although they are small, they do have quite this spring in their step, and the name springbok means springing buck in Afrikaans. Over here on the right-hand side, these two large tan antelopes here are elands. The eland is one of the largest species of antelope, standing up to 6 feet tall at the shoulder. It can jump up to 8 feet in the air. About 50% of the eland population live on protected lands like those here in the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Passing by a watering hole over on the right hand side here. Can make for a good gathering place for some of the animals out here. Though it doesn't seem that any have gathered at this one at the moment. Keep moving forward here and see what other animals we might be able to find up ahead. Looks like we'll just have to cross over this bridge here to get over to the next part of the savanna. Earlier that the animals out here on the savanna can leave a big impact on their surroundings. You might have noticed that in that first area of the savanna, a lot of the leaves on the undersides of those trees were quite sparse. Due to those giraffes, they do love to eat the leaves off the trees. Up ahead here on the left-hand side, I do see some movement over there. Looks like there might be an African elephant walking around. African elephants over here on the left-hand side. The African elephant is the largest species of land mammal, weighing up to 14,000 pounds. It can eat up to about 300 pounds of food a day for a full-grown elephant. You can see. See if we can get a better look at them up ahead here. There they are. An interesting fact that we learned about elephants while doing a conservation study is that elephants are afraid of bees. Just the sound of the bees buzzing is enough to make elephants avoid an area and tell other elephants to do the same. The study that was done is called the Elephant and the Bees Study. It was done in an effort to help protect elephants out in Africa who are being threatened by farmers and landowners after walking on their lands. The findings of that study allowed us to put something up in Africa called bee fences. Basically just strategically placed beehives around areas where elephants were unwanted or unsafe, and it safely keeps those elephants off of those lands. It was a very successful conservation effort. It has helped save a lot of elephants' lives, and the research portion of that study was actually done using some of the elephants who live here in the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. See, they do use their prehensile trunks, like an arm and a hand. They'll also use their trunks to eat and drink, but they don't use their trunks like a big straw. They'll instead suck up some water into their trunk and then spray it into their mouth to drink. And over here in this pond on our left, there's a flamboyance of flamingos. These are the greater flamingos. They're the largest species of flamingo and also the lightest shade of pink. The more gray colored ones are juveniles. They're gray when they hatch, and they won't get their full pink color until about 2 years old. Flamingos get their pink color from something called beta carotene, which is found in the brine shrimp that make up the majority of their diet. Off in the distance on the left-hand side, there is a crash of white rhinos walking around in front of those trucks over there. Over here on our left-hand side, closer to us, there is a mud wallow there in the center. Some of the animals out here, like the elephants and the rhinos, do have quite sensitive skin. They'll use dirt and mud as a natural sunscreen. That mud wallow is a great spot, especially for those rhinos, to take a dip and cool off, as well as get a coating of that mud on their skin, which does help protect them from the sun.
She's trying to get off my side.
Are quite social. They're not actually white in color, as you might notice. They get the name white rhino from a mishearing of the Afrikaans word "weit," which means wide, not white, and it was referring to the wide, flat shape of their mouth. Up in the shade on that hill on the left-hand side, you might see some cheetahs laying down there. Cheetahs are the fastest moving land animals, running at up to 60 miles per hour. They can't maintain that 60-mile-an-hour speed for long distances, so they couldn't run a whole marathon at that speed. But they could win a quick race. There's some more cheetahs over here on our left-hand side, on that hill as well. They also have very unique facial markings, those black marks that go from the inner corners of their eyes to the outer corners of their mouths. Those markings act as natural sunglasses for the cheetahs. Up ahead here, we are approaching a Kobe rock. It's a very identifiable rock formation found out here in Africa. Can make for a good vantage point for some of the animals out here to look out over the savanna and see what the other animals are up to. Looks like there's a lion laying down up there on the left-hand side. Lions have it is the females. They usually do the majority of the hunting for the prize. The males do help when needed, but they're usually tasked with being the protectors, keeping an eye on any territory or cubs they might have. Lions usually spend the majority of the daytime hours sleeping. That is to conserve energy for their dawn and dusk hunting times. Lions are crepuscular animals, meaning that they are most active around those dawn and dusk hours. There's a male lion over here as well. And it's very sleepy right now. Over here on the left-hand side, there are some warthog burrows close to the ground there. I don't see the warthogs themselves at the moment, but they can blend in pretty well over here. Warthogs are the largest burrowing animals here in Africa. They dig their burrows with their snouts, tusks, and hooves, and then back into the burrows, keeping their tusks exposed for protection. Warthogs will even borrow burrows made by other animals and then use them as their own. ostrich eggs over there. As the largest species of bird, ostriches do lay the largest egg of any bird. Each of those eggs weighs about 3 pounds, which is about the equivalent of 2 dozen chicken eggs. So one ostrich egg equals about 24 chicken eggs. Up ahead here by this Warden's Coast, looks like we'll see some Nigerian dwarf goats. Nigerian dwarf goats can be very playful animals. Their playful behaviors can help them mature physically, as well as help to establish dominance within the group. These goats are often raised for their milk, which is quite sweet, but they're also frequently raised as pets. As we near the end of our safari now, friends, we did get so lucky to see so many of these animals in their homes. You might be wondering what you can do back at your home or with the rest of your day today to tell about the animals here in Africa, or maybe your favorite animal somewhere else in the world. One thing I recommend is to do research on the animals you'd like to help so that you know how you can best help them. I do also recommend to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Although it feels small, it does truly make a big impact, not only on the animals, but on the environment, and on us as humans as well. Another way you can make an impact is by making a donation to the Disney Conservation Fund at any of the merchandise locations on the park today. You can do that by rounding up your purchase to the nearest dollar, or if you'd like to donate over $1, you can get a Disney Conservation button as well. If we have any wilderness explorers on the truck, you have been on the Simba 1. That's Simba, like the lion, and the number 1. Here in Harambe, we don't like to say goodbye as it's far too sad and far too final. Instead, we like to say kwaherini, which means to go well.